A lot of people really dread it when they're told they need to get a colonoscopy. And in today's video, I wanted to share 10 tips that I think can really help to overcome feelings of anxiety and dread that you might be having. Hi, my name is Mary Johnson. I'm a registered dietitian and owner of Healing Food for Cancer. And now that I've had 2 colonoscopies myself, I feel like I have a little experience to draw from, as well as some things that I did this second time around, which was actually yesterday, that I feel like really made a difference. And I can honestly say I had a really good day yesterday. So let's break down the 10 tips for a good experience with your colonoscopy. Tip number 1 is to shift your perspective about having a colonoscopy. Obviously, colonoscopies are extremely important tools for screening for colon cancer, and so it's important to have them done. But if you're able to step back and think about the human body, I reflect back on something that my anatomy and physiology professor shared, which is he thought of human beings as being like a donut. So our GI tract runs through us. We eat food that is metabolized. We benefit from the nutrients that are in the food, and then our bodies dispose of it. And if you can think of food passing through you and poop in those ways, it may kind of help to shift your perspective about what it is that you're preparing to do. Tip number 2 is to eat a low fiber diet in the days leading up to the procedure. So usually it's recommended that for 3 to 5 days ahead of time that you avoid nuts and seeds, as they can get lodged in the GI tract, and that you eat a low fiber diet. And so no fruits that have skin on them, so it's preferable to have things like a banana or an orange. I really enjoyed having just plain bagels. That's not something I normally would eat since it doesn't have a whole lot of fiber, but I did enjoy them in the time leading up to my colonoscopy yesterday. So find some things that maybe you don't ordinarily enjoy eating. I don't eat a lot of white rice, but that is something that certainly would be appropriate. Tip number 3. So the day before your colonoscopy, you may be permitted to have breakfast, you may not, but you will most definitely be asked to drink a liquid diet. The first time around, I was permitted to have regular Boost or Ensure, and I did, even though that's not something I normally recommend, I did just to get the calories and the protein. But this time I was instructed to follow a strict clear liquid diet. And one thing that I was very aware of was that many of the foods that were permissible had a lot of sugar in them, and I didn't necessarily want to just consume a whole lot of liquids with sugar. And so I did my research, because you're also advised to avoid any red or blue or purple dyes. And so that ruled out a number of things that I might have otherwise opted for during this day ahead of time. So having done my research, I did find, and this is not something, unfortunately, that you can just walk into a store and purchase, at least not any store that I could find. Ensure makes an apple flavored drink that is a clear fluid that contains 240 calories and 8 grams of protein, as well as some nutrients. So my recommendation is that if you are able to have breakfast, eat something again that is low fiber, and then the rest of the day at lunch and at dinner time, eat something much like a meal. So I had one of these, and then I also had made some Jell-O, and I had a little cup of broth, so that I had something sweet, something savory, and then the juice. And that helped a lot. I did that both for lunch and for dinner. So to feel like I was sitting down for a meal, that I was having sweet and savory, something to drink, as well as consuming some calories and protein, just helped tremendously. I did not feel hungry, which is one of the things that I think most people dread. Tip number 5, if you experience any bloating or gas either before or after the procedure, physical activity and light activity will help with gut motility to get your body moving and to clear yourself out, whether it's needing to poop or whether you have some gas that you're trying to get rid of. Tip number 6, you'll be asked to consume quite a bit of fluid along with the prep to start moving everything through your body. And what I would recommend is you are allowed to drink water, and normally I would recommend drinking water, but in this case I would recommend using some Gatorade. So had I thought, I would have filmed this a little bit ahead of time, so this would have been full, but this is 64 ounce container of Gatorade. It was lemon lime flavor, and so I mixed half of the drink up and tried it just to be sure that I thought it was palatable, and it was very much so. But then the morning of, I mixed the second half with the, it was actually Miralax that they had me use this time around. Anyway, the flavor of the Miralax was completely disguised, as well as I got the benefits of the calories and the electrolyte replacement, because once you get, if you've never had a colonoscopy before, by the time you're finished with your prep, you are going to have pretty much just clear liquid running through you. And so all of that liquid will carry a lot of the electrolytes from the food that you've had in the days leading up to out of your body. So replacing that or those electrolytes is important and will help you to feel better. And again, it's some additional calories. Tip number 7. So 6 hours before the procedure, you'll take the second half of your prep. Again, I recommend doing it with Gatorade so long as that's permissible. And this time, I had been told that after having the prep, I needed to stop with any fluids whatsoever. So when I was preparing the prep, I also prepared a little cup of tea, and I had the last of the Jell-O that I had made the day before, so that I had a few calories and a little bit of caffeine in my system to get the day started. That too seemed to really help. I hadn't gotten the best sleep since I'd been up in the night going to the bathroom. I don't remember that so much the first time around, but in this case, that did happen. So having a little caffeine, a little bit of the Jell-O in me, I felt like really helped me to feel my best the day of the procedure. Tip number 8, and this one is huge. So it might sound like something that you wouldn't even consider, but I want to encourage you to consider it. And that is, I did not take a sedative this time. And I was so glad that I didn't, for multiple reasons. So first off, you might be thinking, well, isn't this going to be terribly painful? And the only pain that I experienced was very brief, and as they're moving the scope through your colon, so they use a scope that has a little camera on it, and it also has a little device that can remove any polyps that they might find. That scope, as it moves through your colon, will give you a little bit of a sensation of cramping, and there were, probably for less than a minute, as it was making the turns in the colon, there were some pretty sharp cramps, but they subsided immediately once the scope had moved past a corner. So I would say that I was only in pain for a matter of minutes, like maybe 2 or 3 minutes tops. And it afforded me the opportunity to watch the whole procedure. Now, that's certainly something that you wouldn't have to do, but your colon, once it's cleaned out, is this beautiful pink tube that is kind of like an accordion, and I could see them moving through with the scope, and I could see they were able to suck out any little pockets of fluid that remained. They were yellow from the Gatorade, but I didn't find it to be at all gross. And I even watched as they removed a couple of polyps. They had like a little lasso on the end of the scope that was just able to grab it and pinch it off. And you might think, oh, that sounds painful. Well, the good news is that there are no nerve endings in your colon. So I didn't feel a thing. I just enjoyed watching this procedure. I found it really interesting. They had it on a TV screen. And since this is all being done with the help of, magnification, I could see everything really clearly. So I found it to be really interesting. The thing that I think was the biggest selling point, well, I think there are two selling points. One is you wouldn't end up needing to pay for an anesthesiologist to administer the sedative, and that was only a minor consideration, but for some people, obviously, that would be a factor that they would consider as they're deciding about whether or not they want to have the sedative or not. What I found to be the best was that I didn't have that, I didn't feel hungover or out of sorts or out of it for the rest of the day. I literally got up like you would from any appointment and was able to carry on with the rest of my day. And given the fact that they mandate that you must have someone that bring you to the appointment and then deliver you home and take responsibility for you, it meant that for me, my brother actually was kind enough to take the day off. He lives about an hour and a half away, and he made the trip. And it was kind of a little carrot for me to get through the procedure, to not use the sedative, and the two of us ended up having a really nice day together. We had a light lunch, we got some takeout, and did a few little odd jobs around the house, took a walk, but it ended up being a really nice day because, and this is my next tip, having a friend or family member that you are looking forward to spending some time with. If you haven't had that sedative, it means that you can carry on about your day with no pain, no feelings of, coming out of the sedative and feeling out of sorts. I remember the first time when I did have the sedative, my dad actually made the trip to take me. And even that night, he took me out to dinner. I still felt out of sorts and didn't feel much like eating, and just was not able to enjoy his company. There are no nerve endings in the colon, so the removal, as I mentioned, is not painful, and again, makes it all the more reason in my mind to feel like the sedative is an option, but not something that's mandatory. The polyps that are removed, I mentioned that they remove them through the scope. They are biopsied, and your physician will follow up with you to let you know, based on the findings from the biopsies, how quickly you need to have another scope. And hopefully you'll be lucky enough where you don't have any polyps that need to be removed. So you might be wondering how and whether there's anything that you can do to avoid the polyps, and the answer is yes. There are some very definite lifestyle factors. First of all, I would recommend that you increase your intake of fruits and vegetables, that you avoid alcohol, and that you quit smoking if you are a smoker, that you enjoy some physical activity each day, and that you maintain a healthy weight. If you'd like to learn more about the procedure and the polyps, I'm going to drop several links down in the description below so that you can learn more. As always, these videos are not intended to be a substitute for one-on-one medical attention or advice. If you'd like to learn more about working with me one-on-one, you can visit my website at healingfoodforcancer.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.